they're just chemical precursor sites. So they have a separation of how they categorize them as storage facilities, because they'll go into the mountains and they'll just see tons of chemicals alone that can be used or turned into a lab at any moment or adjusted for a lab. So it's really opened my eyes to the level of understanding why so much of this deadly poison's been pouring into the country and at what level.
The opinions of the guests and host are their own and do not represent the opinions of Ironclad, the Border Patrol, or the Department of Homeland Security.
Welcome to Borderland Narcosis, an Ironclad original presented by First Form. Go get your First Form supplements at firstform.com/Borderland. My next guest is Jaeson Jones. You guys know him from several other interviews, but he hit me up just the other day for some important information about what he's been doing embedding in Mexico. This is an exclusive of what's going on with him. You guys check it out. The one thing that stood out to me is that you said everything that's being reported on Mexico right now is wrong. And I was like, wow, what do you mean? And so you started sending me intel. Even this morning, I got another list of different intel. And I think it's important for our audience to really hear this from someone who's a trusted source. And so if you wouldn't mind, please tell me how you started getting involved with Mexico and actually being able to directly report with them.
Yeah, you bet, buddy. First, I want to say to the mothers and fathers, and I mean this sincerely, who lost your loved ones from these cartels. I promised you for 8 years after starting this initiative to designate them as foreign terrorist organizations that we would get it done, and we got it done. And I think that's very important. There's a lot of families in our country and in Mexico and around the world that are suffering from what's been taking place, and great things are happening now as a result of it. So, man, to answer your question, I knew immediately that when the Trump administration took over, what was going to happen. Not only were we going to get this terrorism designation, but everyone was going to migrate to domestic operations, as you and I were kind of just talking about a minute ago. I went south and I began trying to forge relationships with the new administration. Look, we were in a position that a lot of people may not be aware of. For the first time in decades, two new administrations, mere months apart, now coming together, no baggage, right? From one being in office 4 or 5 years. Two new administrations that could build and forge new layers of trust to do things good. So we had an opportunity. We saw it get very, very rough there at first, but I went to Mexico and I began trying to say, look, let us show what you're going to be doing, trying to build those relationships to illuminate their operations down there. And man, it took about 6 to 8 months and we finally got it. And in April, we did our first operation, embedding with what they now refer to as the Secretary of National Defense Forces, which we all remember as SEDENA, which is their big army. Today, what that now means under the Scheinbaum administration, it's their army, it is their Air Force, and it is their National Guard, all under one General Secretary Travia, who I've met with personally. And now we have embedded with them not once, not twice, but 3 different times to illuminate their operations in Mexico. It's been tremendous. That's how it happened. Everyone else went this way. I went south, forged those relationships because I knew that's where the fight was, down in Mexico.
Man, it's crazy to see some of the stuff you sent me this morning that I was reading. To hear some of the shifts in percentages of deaths alone is fascinating to hear. I'd love to hear that. You sent me a note that in September 2024, let me try and find this. In September 2024, death has gone down. In 2024 was, how much was it a day? Sorry. Okay, so here you go. In the first year of the new president administration, intentional homicides fell from 86.9 per day in September in 2024 to 59.5 per day in September 2025, marking the lowest figures of the month of September since 2015, which that is crazy to hear, the numbers dropping so significantly. And would you say, is that because of this new security team? Or excuse me, I forget the title of it. What you called it right now?
Yeah, it's the Secretary of National Defense Forces. That's who I've been embedding with. But you got to remember, they've got their Navy, they've got their others. But the overall September to September numbers show a 32% reduction in homicides in Mexico. To give everyone an average, that's 27 people per day in Mexico in just 1 year. Remember, the Scheinbaum administration came in October. So in 1 year, they have now dropped homicides. I mean, this is tremendous, by 32%. And, that's according to their data. That's what they are giving us. Now, I'm the first to tell you, any government agency, their data is always flawed. I've worked in the United States. I know our NIBR system, National Incident-Based Reporting and Unified Crime Reporting System, as you do, buddy. And as you know, even in the United States, our systems are flawed. But they're using the same system that was in place under Calderon, Nieto, AMLO, and now the Scheinbaum administration. The numbers are tremendous. And I will tell you, as somebody that has sat down with 3 different secretaries of the Scheinbaum administration, even they are surprised. And what it really illuminated to me, and this is why I wanted to get with you, is that the story of what was happening under the AMLO administration, which was nothing, they inherited a mess. Something that we in the United States, we think President Trump inherited a mess. This is 2 different worlds. And so as they have created their new national security strategy to go after the infrastructure, and I want to be very clear here, the infrastructure on phase 1 of these cartels, that's where they are. That's what they're doing right now, because they want to break that OODA loop cycle. And that strategy makes sense in phase 1 because, believe it or not, whether you want to or not, when you come in with a new administration, you got to get rid of a lot of bad things and build a lot of new programs to go after the problem set you're dealing with in your country. And that's what they've been doing.
Well, what exactly has changed? What are some of the tactics that they've implemented that has completely caused a shift in homicides and everything else? Like,
Yeah.
what have they done?
Yeah. So the national security strategy is this. First, root causes. Okay, that's a politically correct deal. Let's just get that one out of the way. But then from there, they've created intelligence-led processes to try to bring their agencies together to use intelligence to drive operations. Mexico didn't have that before, and I'll get into who really is the mastermind behind that and how he has already had proof of how to do that in Mexico City. The third part of this is they're trying to integrate National Guard into law enforcement models more in with SEDENA, what they used to call SEDENA, which you and I have talked about, the Secretary of National Defense Forces. And then from there, coordinate with local, state, and federal law enforcement, bringing them all together for a better national security strategy. Now, the architect behind this, there's really 2 different secretaries, but one who I think is really the most important to our relationship operationally in the United States. That's Secretary Harfuch. He's a pipe hitter. He's the real deal. He's not somebody who, comes from what we traditionally see in Mexico, which is a former senator who gets assigned to these positions, or, someone who's an elected class. This is somebody who is a law enforcement officer. He was the police chief for Mexico City, the size of Mexico City down there, and lowered homicides by their data by 50% by bringing in these things of intelligence-led operations and processes. And look, for the folks watching right now, I'm not saying the man's perfect, but what I'm trying to articulate to you is that he's not a typical government employee that's brought in because he's in the elected class. This is somebody who has been a law enforcement officer. He knows what works. And just so you know, he was targeted by Cartel Jalisco New Generation. They sent 28 Sicarios after him, shot up his protective detail. He was shot up 3 times. This guy's the real deal. So when you bring in people like him who at least have some experience, and I'm not saying the man's perfect, what I'm trying to articulate is that under the Scheinbaum administration, they brought in new people who really have an understanding of how to go after crime and go after these criminals for what they've been doing down there, and really what we call terrorists today.
Is all of this because of the terrorist designation of the United States? Did that help influences? Or if we didn't do that at all, President Scheinbaum was still going to start cracking down?
No, this was influenced by President Trump and the foreign terrorism designation. Initially, right, look at what we saw. We saw how rough it was at first, right? That relationship, threatened of tariffs and all of this. But now look at what has happened. You've seen President Trump back off. He's talked very well about Mexico. And he's no longer talking about going kinetic against these cartels because he has seen what Mexico has been doing. They've moved 10,000 National Guard troops to their northern border, who, by the way, I've been embedded with and watching as they're conducting those mirroring operations with CBP and with the United States military. I've been in those both in Puerto Paloma along with in Juarez. So that's one part of it. That has led huge success, and I sent you the data on those successes for what they call Operation Northern Border. Then from that as well, they've been attacking this infrastructure loop. And that is a big piece of, There are a lot of guys out there who are talking about, look, we're not going after the cartel bosses yet. We're not doing that. They're absolutely right. This is phase one. How do you break the cycle? Attack the logistical chains. And look at some of the data we talked about. They've hit over 1,500 labs in Mexico, just to give an example. Arrested 34,000 people in that country just in the last year. I mean, these are tremendous numbers. Look at the amount of cocaine seized off the Pacific, and we'll talk about that and the importance for us here. But these statistics, what they're trying to do is break this cycle. They produce the drugs, ship the drugs to us. We use the drugs, ship money, and then weapons south. And so new relationships are being forged there to try to combat that, because in phase one, you've got to be able to separate those things out before you start going after what they in their country call violence generators. Here under network theory, we call them T nodes within network theory operations. We're going there, but we are not there yet. And so it's very important for a lot of, listen, you bring on some of the best cartel guys in the country, man. I love to watch the show that you guys are doing. It's fantastic. And they really are. They're very good at understanding, the tripwires and triggers of what the cartel's evolutions are, where they're adjusting, who's winning, who's doing this. But you got to remember there's another side to this. And this is where I think I bring a lot more to. And that is, what is U.S. government, U.S. law enforcement doing and the Mexican government doing? Because without authorities, without focus, we fail. And that's what we did. Man, you and I talked about this. This is what we did for 60 plus years, trying to use a DOJ model in something that had evolved far beyond capabilities. So what I'm trying to do is illuminate how new authorities are coming together. Two countries are coming together. We've got a long ass way to go. But let me tell you, man, as somebody who carried the torch and talked bad about Mexico for 8 years publicly, and you know that, 8 years I went after them on national television. I was told how wrong I was for years and years and years. I have been stunned at what I've seen in phase one in forging those new relationships and where things are going. But I want to stress that can change tomorrow. But right now, the data and what they're doing is causing havoc on the infrastructure of these cartels. And look, they know it. Their whole thing right now is about surviving Trump. But at the same time, the Mexican government has had such success. Success breeds success in saving lives in your own country. I don't care if you're left, right, up, and down. We all want to save our own citizens and people in around the world.
If you're looking for a recovery shake that actually does its job, check out Formula One from First Form. It's a rapid digesting whey protein isolate made for post-workout recovery. That means that it gets into your system fast to help the muscles repair and cut down soreness. It mixes ultra smooth, it's easy on your stomach, and it tastes legit. All the flavors are good, but for me, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is hands down the best one. Plus, it's NSF certified for sport and Informed Choice certified, so you know it's clean. First Form is giving free shipping on orders over $100, and if you don't love it, they'll give you your full refund. Hit the link in the description and grab Cinnamon Toast Crunch Formula One today.
Everybody, let's be real with each other for a second. Most doctors do not care about optimization. They do care about you, but they're checking your basic labs. They tell you that everything is looking normal, and they're going to send you on your way. Meanwhile, you're feeling tired, your performance is slipping, and you know that something is off, and that is where Marek Health comes in. Marek Health isn't your typical doctor's office. They're a next-level health optimization platform that actually listens to you, runs advanced lab testing, and helps you optimize your hormones, your metabolism, and your overall performance. So whether you're looking to boost your energy, maybe gain some muscle mass, or you just feel like you're not your best self anymore and you want to change that, Marek gives you those tools and can help you make it happen. You have two options. You can go with their guided optimization program and get a dedicated health coach and medical provider to help you with supplements and prescription treatments. Or if you're more of a do-it-yourself type of person, you can order self-service lab tests and take control of your health on your own terms. The best part is, either option that you pick, you can get 10% off of your order right now. Just go to marekhealth.com and use the code FOCALPOINT at checkout. That's MAREK health.com with the code FOCALPOINT for 10% off.
Well, it's fascinating to hear, man, because especially from you. So that's why I was intrigued when you're like, man, everything we talk about in Mexico is wrong. And I was like, what? From Jason hearing that intrigued me. Something that always comes to mind with Mexico in politics and military and law enforcement is the potential for corruption. We've heard about it for years. On the United
Mhm.
States side, we talk about how money can influence anything over there. The cartel has influence and control over there. Are you seeing that still, or is that again
Of
a
course.
misconception? Or it
No.
still is a thing?
Listen, corruption in Mexico is through and through. And anyone that works in Mexico, they know that, right? That's why I say in phase one, I'm really happy where we are. Phase two could change everything, right? I mean, we cannot get there. I mean, who knows where this is going to go? Every day matters. Every day matters. But when you talk about the corruption, something has happened that has not truly been discussed about the level of success of what this is, and that is the first 29 individuals that were extradited and really expelled from Mexico into the United States. This is something that we tried to get done for 30 plus years. I mean, if you go back to Rafael Caro Quintero, we had Miguel and Omar Trevino, those savages who murdered innocent men, women, and children, because they were bored. I mean, we got them in the United States. Now, what does that mean for the average viewer right now? That means we ripped the scab that was the corruption mechanism that had a level of control over the Mexican government. That is gone now. And all those rotten lawyers, as you're talking about, those rotten judges in the United States, all the way down to South America, we have the keys to the kingdom. It wasn't that we didn't know who they were. It was that how do we get them? We have the bosses now who have been paying them for decades, the politicians, etc. So they weren't done then. Then they sent another 26. We've got 55 of them here now. Now, that's just the start. That alone is going to spend the next decade of indictments that are going to trickle down from that. And I can't stress to the viewer enough how important that was, because now we can go after them with so many other layers. Because you have to remember, we have the terrorism designation. And look at what you've been seeing recently. We're picking people up domestically on material support in Sinaloa cartel. So when I tell you that these authorities and these new things that have played out have brought to the attention the ability to have massive success in the long run, we are there. But it's always going to be a learn to crawl, learn to walk before you can run model. And for everyone watching, we are in the crawl stage right now, but tremendous successes that even I have to tell you I didn't expect have already been taking place.
You mentioned that they're doing a lot of gathering intel now, and
Mhm.
that's kind of
Yeah.
intel-driven missions. One, is it anything that us in America have been able to teach them, or is it two, are they doing intel? Was it self-taught? Are they doing it on their own? Or is there anything about the system that they use of intel that has surprised you or impressed you?
Yes, they're doing all of that. I can't say everything they're doing here, but what I can tell you is they're building out new systems now to be able to really go after the bosses and put things together. They're working with our U.S. intelligence agencies to do these things.
Awesome.
So it is happening. This is going to surprise you, what I'm about to say. I am very concerned about our side. What a lot of people are not aware of, Vince, and because you were one of them just like I was. A lot of us who had done this for a very long time for our government, we got frustrated and we left because we weren't getting anything done. So where I'm going with this is the experts, the men who are some of my closest friends, who are the best of the best at these cartels for our government. These are the men who caught Chapo Guzman, who caught Miguel and Omar Trevino, who chased Lascano for years, who caught all of these capos. Many of them have retired now. We have maybe a handful left in the United States government. And so who we now send to rebuild these layers of trust, because what we forge today from our side, right? The layers that we create with the new secretaries, with the admirals within SAMAR, and with the generals within the Secretary of National Defense Forces, I can't stress to you how important that is. And I can tell you right now for a fact, some of the attachés we have sent down there, man, we should have never sent them, because these are not people who really understand what we're up against and understand this threat stream. But again, within these government agencies, they fit the billet. So what do, man? They put these people down there. Though that right there, really concerns me because we had built that capability for decades. And then under AMLO, another story that really hasn't been discussed publicly very well is how all of those layers and those back channels that had been created in those layers of trust that had been forged, they were severed under the AMLO administration. And so now that's being reforged now and rebuilt. And there's a long way to go on that, but a lot has happened in the last year.
It's interesting, man, to hear that they're using the intel now, and obviously, U.S. Agencies are in support of that. Is there anything that the Sedenia, right? That's the term Sedenia.
Sedena used to be that. Now it's
Yeah.
the National Secretary of Defense Forces. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any tactic that they're currently using right now that you think that United States could actually benefit from if they used it?
Well, the way I see the operations is one thing that we do very well that everyone needs to know is that our intelligence is incredible. That's just the truth of it. There is no stash house, there is no lab that we can't find and put down based on the databases and the systems that we've been working, the human and signal intelligence that we've collected for decades. Like we know where everybody is. The key is being able to get in there without a large loss of life and to coordinate with these specialized vetted teams and vetted units that we've worked with on all sides for many years and reforged those relationships. There are new capabilities that they're going to need down there. As you see, there is a war going on in Culiacan. I mean, I've been to Culiacan. I embedded there in April, and it is an all-out war. And to really get them right without losing a lot of life, and also creating an environment where the citizens in Culiacan are put at risk, you've got to do this the right way. And obviously, I'm not going to give up how you do that, but the big win between our two countries is the intelligence coming from the United States driving their operations and helping them.
It sounds like you got your foot in the door there, where you're able to communicate and kind of help the relationship between the United States and Mexico. Is the Trump administration in connection with you? Are you helping support that, or are you trying to get that conversation started even more? Because like what you're doing is fascinating, and I think there's not enough of us in the U.S. side of law enforcement doing that to kind of help build rapport and kind of work together. I'm curious if you have any connection with the government that's interested in this and wants to kind of give you more assistance in that effort.
No, not at all, man. I'm a retired guy now like you. And you know what? My goal now is to try to bring these two countries together. I truly mean that. We have all lost so many loved ones. And, there's so many families out there hurting. I just did an event the other day, Vince, and a mom walked up and she lost 2 children and a grandchild to fentanyl. And she was in tears when she walked up to me. These things have hit me pretty hard over the years. This thing got so out of control. And I can't tell you how happy I am to see where things are going in phase one. The new focus of our government on these cartels. It's great to sit there and listen to these secretaries from the Department of War and from, Secretary of State and all of these guys talking about how they're, cartels are the number one threat and the new designations that keep coming out. Because what I knew all along is that the DOJ model could never take this on. And that once we got the FTO designation, this was the beginning OODA loop to start a whole new way of going after them. And it's fascinating what is taking place here. I was down with one of the generals, and we were in Juarez doing mirroring operation. I asked him what you just asked me, man. What's one of the main things that is really helping to go after the Halcones here, that have operational control? He said it has been the intelligence sharing. And now let me validate that to the folks. In the old days, we hardly ever met with the Mexicans, as you know, the soldiers. We walked up to do introductions with Border Patrol between the wall, and they're saying, "Hey, it's good to see you again." They had just had a meeting the day before. So when I tell you these mirroring operations are taking place daily, when I went to Puerto Paloma, that was their 145th mirroring operation in 6 months. It is really helping to really crack and illuminate the infrastructure of these Halcones who really had been owning our frontera and our border region for so long. Because it's not that along the mirroring operations they're arresting people. What it does is it causes the chatter so that you can go after and you can go get them. And then through that intelligence sharing that they're doing, it's helping to shut them down, man. So I'm stunned at what I've seen in a short period, but I want to stress too, with that, we're in phase one here. Things could change tomorrow. And But man, you got to give some credit where credit is due. And I'll tell you where that came with me. I had the unique opportunity to sit down with General Secretary Trevilla, Secretary Harfuch, who I was telling you earlier is really the key here between our relations operationally. That man, in the position that he is, basically for the folks watching, he is the equivalent of Secretary Noem and Tom Homan all in one, reporting directly to the president of Mexico. So his position operationally is extremely, extremely important to us. And then you have Secretary Figueroa, who I also met with, an incredible lady. Again, another great pick by President Scheinbaum. You know, I'm visiting with her. She's not a former senator. She's not a former politician. Vince, she's a former analyst that analyzed data in Mexico on all of these groups. So she knows them very well. After that, she went and worked for a private company that then tried to understand how their law enforcement was so broken and what they could do to fix it. So she was handpicked by President Scheinbaum to come in and rebuild their law enforcement structure and some things that we don't even think about, man, that they're dealing with. I'll give you a great example. You know, when I interviewed her publicly, and we got that out on Newsmax where I work, you know, she told us straight out, you know, we're creating new requirements in how you create a uniformity in just the hiring process at the federal level for federal agents. And they had just put together their first group that were going to graduate as new federal law enforcement officers that finally had new standardized requirements. They had never even come up with that previously. So when I tell you that they are dealing with something that we here domestically can't even wrap our mind around, that's kind of some of the things I'm talking about. But again, another great pick of somebody who truly cares about the issues, has the knowledge to do it, and not only that, is doing it now to fix these things. And man, I remember that night after visiting with all three of them, I went back to the hotel in Mexico City, grabbed a beer, and I said, holy shit, things are truly changing. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect. Please hear me there. But I am definitely saying we are seeing an administration with good people who really give a shit about these issues. And man, I'll take that all day long. I'll take that all day long, Vince.
Hey guys, Sean Ryan here. I'm super excited to announce a project that I've been working on. I partnered with Ironclad for their newest original series, Target Intelligence PSYOP. It's an 8-part audio experience where we find out who is really pulling the strings. Buy it today, it's psyopshow.com. Link is in the show notes. The stakes have never been higher.
Today's episode is brought to you by DeleteMe. We have talked a lot about people getting caught in timeshare scams, falling for pig butchering schemes, or getting those mysterious text messages that you have no idea where they came from. I've spoken with guests who hunt hackers and work to protect people's personal information. But here's the thing. Your data, your personal data, your name, your address, your phone number, even your relatives' names can be bought and sold online by data brokers, putting you at risk for identity theft, scams, and harassment. Now, that is why we have partnered with DeleteMe. Like the experts we've had on the show who actively stop hackers and scammers, DeleteMe works behind the scenes to remove your personal information from hundreds of people search and data broker sites. They do it continuously, securely, and without outsourcing. Plus, real privacy advisors are available for custom requests, so you're never on your own. DeleteMe has been the leading service for removing personally identifiable information for over 15 years. They verify your data is actually on these sites before requesting removal, reducing unnecessary exposure. Wirecutter named them the #1 service of its kind, and judges, journalists, creators, and podcasters all trust DeleteMe to protect their privacy. Nowadays, this isn't just a nice to have. I feel like it's an essential. And DeleteMe makes it super easy. Just create your account, enter in your basic information on the dashboard, and they're going to do the rest. Within about a week, the first report arrives showing exactly what has been removed. Take control of your digital privacy today at joindeleteme.com/ironclad and use the coupon code Ironclad, all one word, all uppercase. You can also scan the QR code to get started. It's one of the few services actively keeping your personal information out of the wrong hands.
Yeah, so this morning while I was drinking my coffee, I was reading some of the stuff you sent me, and one of the interesting things you sent was pictures of, one of the, looks like a Navy ship on a pier with a bunch of bundles of cocaine. because the skepticism in me, I downloaded them and I checked on AI, like, are these AI generated? Because you never know these
Sure.
days. And no, both two different ones authenticated that there's very low, if any, probability of those being AI generated. So then I'm like, man, this is crazy. And it looked, I don't know how many kilos was in one of those pictures, but can you tell me more about those pictures and what they represent? Because the next question after that is going to be about this Venezuelan bombing that's going on right now in our government and how that affects Mexico.
Okay, so this is a really good question. It's a very important point because what you are being sold right now as the US citizens from the national media is Venezuela, Venezuela, Venezuela.
Yeah.
What the data from Mexico illuminated to me, and as you saw, I see every day what they put out publicly.
Yes.
I get that every day, and then I get the photographs that validate the seizures. That's very important to me because I don't believe anything I'm told because we've all been lied to so much, right? By our own
Yeah, and
government,
just
by
so
other
the audience
governments.
is clear, I was sent files of different states and some of the apprehensions in those states with images proving that these apprehensions are happening. So outstanding. Even some of the fentanyl, fentanyl builds that they were burning them down and everything. So it's just absolutely awesome to see that. But go ahead, please.
It's amazing, man. I've actually been to some of these labs, and I will tell you, the lab that I was at was able to produce 200 kilos of meth a day. And when we came in a Black Hawk in Culiacan, man, I could smell it at 3,500 feet before you could ever see it. These
Wow.
labs are no joke, these mega labs. And the chemical precursors, another thing that just stunned me is the sheer amount of chemical precursors in Mexico that they're not only getting from China, but from India. It's the cartels getting them from all over the world, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Some of these sites, just so your viewers know, they're just chemical precursor sites. So they have a separation of how they categorize them as storage facilities because they'll go into the mountains and they'll just seize tons of chemicals alone that can be used or turned into a lab at any moment or adjusted for a lab. So it's really opened my eyes to the level of understanding why so much of this deadly poison's been pouring into the country and at what level. But to get back what you're talking about, in April, when I began really receiving this data, I noticed a major tripwire happening in the data. And that is that the Navy in Mexico off the Pacific coast was seizing tons of cocaine. And I'm talking go fast boats, these mini submersibles, the videos and things that I sent you, that's just a day's worth, buddy. I mean, I'm getting these every day. So I began watching it going from 10 to 20 tons to 30 tons. They're now on the Pacific coast, just as the Mexican Navy, at 48.5 tons of cocaine. So that was a major tripwire to me that we were seeing the rise of South America. Remember, Venezuela's on the other side. This is the rise of the South American cartels. Why? We're seeing major pressure put upon the cartels, not only by the Mexican government, but by the US domestically and globally. Only makes sense to see that the cocaine and the South American cartels would try to fill that gap. Then I got direct access into General Gio. I did an interview at U.S. Northern Command. He's, just for everyone watching, he is the 4-star general over U.S. Northern Command. He's the man that's responsible for sending 10,000 soldiers to the southwest border, pushing destroyers into the Gulf of America and into the Pacific Ocean. And when I left him, Vince, I knew that we were about to see a cocaine bonanza hit us. And the reason I knew that is because of the deployment of the destroyers and his concern for what was happening in the waterways and in the airways. Meaning that, as you and I have always talked about, these cartels will adjust on a dime. And as we're applying pressure at the border, they had moved to the water and they had moved to drones. We had a lot of issues with drones. It's a whole separate issue. But in the waterways, the Mexico seizures indicated to me to the breadth and scope of this. So please understand, when you talk about how much cocaine is coming in from South America right now, we are in a whole new world. For those of you that have been around a long time and you remember what the Miami Vice days, right? The cocaine coming in through the Caribbean, get ready. Operation Viper, which was conducted by U.S. Southern Command, both in the Pacific and in the Caribbean, in 54 days, see 76,140 pounds of cocaine. So if you wonder why they're conducting strikes right now in the Caribbean, this is what it is all about. It is the rise of the South Americans. And I ask you, how many in the media or in the U.S. intelligence agencies are even telling you this?
Nothing. I've never heard
This is
that
what I
at all.
mean.
This morning I read it.
This is what I mean. So you see, this is how good they are. So what we've really realized now too, Vince, is that as we turned our head for the global war on terror, our entire hemisphere is on fire. Look at the problems we got in Canada with the meth lab or the fentanyl labs in Canada right now. Hell's Angels, the triads from China, moving that product in from the north. You heard Tom Homan recently talk about he's going to change how he does things at the northern border with CBP. He's also, you heard from Kash Patel talking about his concerns of the northern border with Canada. So we took our eye off the ball too long, and now the country over the next few months is going to realize why President Trump has not only designated these cartels as terrorists, but also recently unlawful enemy combatants. This is not about justifying the maritime attacks in the Caribbean. It's about where we're going.
What countries do you think are involved in that the most? Anyone to be concerned about?
Ecuador. It's about the global supply chain. Here's the thing that's not been talked about, and that is that the cocaine production in South America has more than doubled. I want to say that again. The global cocaine supply coming from Colombia, coming from Bolivia, coming from Peru has more than doubled. Every American should know this. This is the job of the media. No one's telling the American people this. So we're seeing us conduct strikes on Venezuela, and we can talk about how they're a violence generator, what they're doing working with CJNG, Sinaloa, the FARC, ELN, and how they're causing these issues in South America. But they're just the beginning of what's coming. Ecuador right now is playing a major role in the shipping lanes of cocaine to the United States, to Mexico, to other countries around the world. And this is why for the last few months, I've also been warning Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. We are under a cocaine blitz, and it's coming your way along with a lot of fentanyl.
I don't want to get off the subject of the boats, but my question with the cocaine thing is, who's the consumer? Is it still us in America? Are we still the biggest consumer of cocaine?
Man, we haven't been the biggest consumer of these things in a long time. This is the outdated model. The cartels are global, right? They're in, according to DEA, they now admit publicly that they're in 65 countries. It's not Jaeson Jones saying it. It's DEA saying it. 65 countries around the world. And if you notice, the fentanyl at our southern border has dropped. The seizures are down by 57%. I mean, the number of lives being saved in the United States, it is happening, man. We've gone in from April of 24 to April of 25. We went from 101,000 overdoses in the U.S. in April of 24 to April of 25. We're at 76,000. That's a 24.5% drop. It's incredible. So the cartels know that too, that if they continue to move fentanyl into the U.S., that we're going to go after them. So they're moving it to Europe. That's what they're doing.
Crazy. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I should have known that, but I just keep thinking like, man, are we doing that much cocaine in America? But you're absolutely correct on that. If you're into quality gear, you need Tac Pack, a monthly subscription box loaded with tactical gear from the top brands like Battle Arms Development, 9line, 511, and more. You can choose from Tac Pack Standard, $59.95 shipped with $90 to $120 worth of products, or Tac Pack Plus, $139.95 shipped with $240 to $300 worth of products. This September, Tac Pack Plus is stacked with over $330 worth of gear, including Battle Arms Development, 9line, and Next Level Armament. Use code Ironclad at TacPack.com for a free $70 tactical gift, pushing your value past $400. Tac Pack, gear you'll actually use.
I want to thank our partners over at Ammo Squared. They've built what they call America's Ammunition Reserve. Basically, this is an ammo savings account. You can sign up, pick from more than 70 different calibers, you can set an auto-buy budget and either choose a shipping schedule, or you can just let your personal reserve grow. Over time, your ammo stacks up and is stored for free in their climate-controlled facilities in Texas and Idaho until you are ready to ship. There are no minimums, there's no extra fees. It works whether you have a small budget or you just don't want to drop a few grand all at once. Thank you so much, Ammo Squared, for providing this cool service and for supporting the show.
So the boats, I'm curious to know how you feel about it. The administration bombed several of them now. We've seen the videos of it. Does that feel like a positive move for us? Do you feel like that creates further tension and potential some kind of other follow-on attack by Venezuela? I'm not sure. I'm curious to know what you think.
But I'm like, let's go, man. Like, let's go. Like, this is it. Like, great work, Mr. President. Look, now that's the Jaeson Jones talking. Let's get real to what's really been happening. Venezuela has been a sanctuary for these hyper violent terrorist organizations. They have managed and run Cartel of the Suns for a very long time. This is no secret. Maduro was indicted in 2020 for not only cocaine trafficking, but also working with the FARC, moving military-grade weaponry. So if you're not familiar with the FARC is a formally designated terrorist organization that was moving cocaine all over the world. They broke up in 2016, 2017, and now they're not designated anymore as foreign terrorist organizations, yet they're still operating, moving cocaine, working very closely with this Cartel of the Suns. But they have become a sanctuary nation for these hyper-violent terrorist organizations to be able to conduct operations, use their waterways, use their aircraft to move deadly drugs, not only into our country, but around the world. And it is driving that economy. And so these strikes are much bigger than just hitting a couple of cocaine loads. You have to look at how they are the generator of the problem for South America. And this is just the beginning of what's coming. And everyone else should be on standby. If you're the president of Colombia and you've been allowing this, when we all know that he has, and we've seen the rise of violence in Ecuador, because Ecuador, what's happening, it's not that coca leaf is so much produced there, which it is, don't get me wrong, but nothing on the scale of what we see in Bolivia, Peru, and Colombia. It's a transit point to move it into the waterways, and then it goes 600 miles off the coast to some of the Galapagos Islands, where they refuel, and they ship it over to Europe, and that's what they're doing right now with that.
It's all fascinating, man. It all kind of trickles up to us, and then, whether it reaches us or not now with how global these transnational organizations are. Fentanyl is down, is what you're saying? Fentanyl's down. Is all drugs down? Is cocaine going up? Why is cocaine the big thing right now? Very curious about that.
Yeah, look, Permito, the head of the Gulf Cartel, has said anybody that moves fentanyl through his area, they're going to kill him. They're going to kill him. Now, that's a big win because their fear is the hits from the U.S. coming or more pressure from Mexico, right? So this is how they're trying to take that pressure off. Hey, we'll smuggle cocaine, we'll smuggle meth, and all the cocaine seizures are up along the border. So everyone needs to know that. Even Texas DPS, who I retired from, all their cocaine seizures are up as well. So this is the adjustment to that. But here's the issue with it. If you're saying right now, hey, Jason, man, I'll take cocaine all day over fentanyl. Look, I agree with you. Here's what you need to know, though, is that our U.S.-based street gangs working with the Mexican cartels are just going to mix fentanyl, parafentanyl, serafentanyl, xylazine, and netazine in it, just like they're doing domestically all over the country. So we're not out of the woods. I've been to some of the worst places in our country. I mean, I went to Kensington, Philadelphia 3 different times, Vince. Every dope they're ordering out there, they ask for fentanyl, they get a cocktail. It's poly drug use. It's methamphetamine, cocaine, mixed with all of these other types of drugs like fentanyl, parafentanyl, serafentanyl, and xylazine and netazine. It's just, we're in a place with that we've never been before. So you can't say, hey, it's okay if it's cocaine that comes in, I'll take that all day long, because you have to understand what happens once the drug gets here. With our U.S.-based street gangs understanding the appetite for fentanyl in the United States now. So we've got to go take this on. And every day, you're going to start to see more and more about South America. You're going to start to see about the problem sets. And what's amazing is if you really watch what you hear from Kash Patel, if you watch what you hear from Tom Homan and watch what the Secretary of War is saying, they're trying to illuminate without giving it away how bad things they now realize have happened in this hemisphere and how South America is going to have to be dealt with once again.
So America's drug use has not gone down. It's just kind of a pivot right now, it sounds like. Obviously, deaths are down based on last year's numbers. Are drugs coming into America down as well? Or are they using different means? Because back when I was an agent, man, it was just come across the border. You can catch 20 20,000 pounds of marijuana wasn't a big deal back then. It was kind of what happened, you know? So are they not using the border anymore? Is it still tunnels? What are some of the intel that you're hearing about how they're bringing drugs into America?
Waterways. Waterways is the deal. I'm telling you right now, keep your eye on the Caribbean and the Gulf of America. I mean, I'm talking to law enforcement officers all the time. They're seizing out in the Gulf, not only drugs, but they're also creating new programs to try to be able to go further and further out. They're interdicting, they're finding GPS trackers floating in the water all the time, gas refueling stations out in the Gulf of America. So that's where they pivoted to. Now, you're also going to hear about drones. U.S. Northern Command's doing some great work. They're trying to get new capabilities to not only detect these drones, but to be able to mitigate them, because we have now a lot of outdated laws and technology there. They've done some there's some new stuff that's just getting ready to really hit the market that they're about to be able to use. Where they've been bringing all these companies together. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to be last month to be able to see some of this stuff, but I wasn't able to make it, unfortunately. But right now it is waterways, and that is the place to watch. So if you wonder why these seizures off the Pacific and the Caribbean are so massive, why you see the strikes taking place, this is the adjustment from as we surged on that border, the South American cartels rose and began sending tons of this cocaine our way. And look, you've got to take on Venezuela, because you can't have a nation state being a sanctuary, allowing the Sinaloa to move their fentanyl labs down there, because most of the labs that are being seized in Mexico are methamphetamine. You can't allow them to take over that market and then just be able to run it as a nation state actor, protecting waterways, using their military to do all of this. And that's what's really taking place there.
You know what I haven't heard a lot of, let me reword that. I haven't heard a lot as much as I used to before the Trump administration, was a lot of human trafficking conversations. Has that just slowed down significantly, or is it, or for some reason people are just not talking about it as much?
Yeah, nothing's changed there, man. Look, at the end of the day, we had approximately 13.5 million people, if you include the 2.2 known gotaways, just that we can put on paper, that came into this country under the Biden-Harris administration. We have so many problems domestically right now. We can go into that too, in the failure of 287G, why our numbers are so low in trying to pick up people and get them out of this country who came here illegally. There's a lot of issues domestically with that, but it's taking away from what you're talking about. Look, the problem set is here. I'll say this again and again, and it walks among us. And to the folks watching, if you're still looking at the problem domestically of illegal immigration the way you did in the 1980s and 1990s and 2000s, it's over. We let in millions and millions of people from over 170 countries. We've got people here from terrorist organizations. Every crime syndicate you can name is here and walking among us. We have to get that threat stream out. And people don't want to hear it, but our system was never designed or built for this. So you're going to have to bring that whole of government approach. Hiring 10,000 ICE agents, look, the administration is not going to like Jason saying this. I don't give a shit. It's not the right way to go about it. It's one way. But if I will say it again and again, if you do not incorporate the 287G program, which basically allows local and state law enforcement officers to enforce immigration law, if that agency, that municipality, that county, and that state wants to do it, you're never going to be able to get to where we need to go when it comes to public safety. Notice I didn't talk about national security, because that's out the window. I don't care about that anymore. You let these people walk among us who can hurt our fellow citizens. We are seeing children being killed by TDA members. In El Paso just last week, Texas DPS, great work, arresting a TDA member wanted for the murder and a homicide of a 10-year-old child. This is what's walking among us, Vince. And I show these on Newsmax almost every week. Another dead American, another dead American. This stuff matters. So I will say it again and again, and I know this is going to offend a lot of people, but the fastest way to public safety is mass deportation, because we don't know who they are. We don't know where they are. And every day, local and state lawmen are responding to the family violence call. They're responding to the criminal trespass. They're making the traffic stops. And you can put boundaries. If they don't have a past history, let them go down the way. If it's a mom and a children, let them go. But each agency can do whatever they think is the right thing to do. But if we don't get these terrorists and these criminals and these transnational cartel members, and the long list goes on, man.
Yeah. It's such an interesting subject because it offends so many who don't fully understand it. It's as if they don't grasp the importance of deporting those violent criminals like immediately. For some reason, that gets convoluted into, well, now you're targeting brown people. And it wasn't
Yeah,
a subject
yeah,
I want to talk about, but
right.
I'm going to just jump into
Let's
this
do
since
it.
we're
Yeah.
here, someone who's educated in the subject. And that's what happens is people start feeling that the brown people are being targeted.
Hmm.
And I'm curious to know how you would respond if someone come to you and be like, "Hey, this is it's against your constitutional rights. You're just targeting brown people." What's the answer for that? How do you talk to someone and try and I guess educate them a little bit better on this?
Yeah, look, I get it, because every day they turn their TV on, they see a raid happening, and who are they arresting? That's
Yeah,
what they see on national television, man. And so, look, at the end of the day, the real truth is there are more people here from Latin America than there are from, Kazakhstan and other countries. I get it. But you have to understand, we are in a new world. And this is something that I think this administration, future administrations are going to have a very difficult time, but they're going to have to do a better job of illuminating to the American people what we're up against and truly show it visually. Standing, I'm this old outdated model. I'll just be very frank with you. It's why I do what I do now. You notice I always have a picture, I always have a video when I do something. Is why I sent you what I did this morning, because we have all been lied to left, right, up, and down by our government so much that we don't believe anything we're told anymore. And we shouldn't, in fairness. But if
yeah,
somebody can show it to you and show you that individual and show you the victim, just cover the face of the child so you don't know who the child is, but let them feel it in their heart what that individual, that animal did to that child. Then they say, I get it. It's not all
yeah.
politics, man. It's not all politics. And
It's
from my
I wanted to
standpoint, I just
interject
want
on that.
safety for citizens, man. That's
Yeah,
my
no,
that's my angle. That's my thing.
I agree. I wanted to add to that is that if ICE and Border Patrol did a lot better at telling people and showing them exactly who they're going after.
Right.
These guys like, here's this criminal record, here's the proof, and now we have them. You would take the wind out of a lot of their arguments. They would be like, oh, okay, okay, then the next one, then I'm gonna go complain about the next guy. And then you show him again. Well, like, here's his criminal record. Here's what he's done violently, and now he's getting deported. You would remove any counter argument to the deportation because most people are okay with, even like left, right, center, are okay with you deporting violent criminals. For some reason, the government has taken the approach to not educate, not inform, and that has caused bigger rifts because now you have anyone running with any narrative. Now you're just targeting brown people. And that has been an interesting thing to watch for someone who's in the communication world. I'm
Yeah.
like, really easy to fix if you just have transparency on who you're getting and
Just
tell the
show it,
world.
and stop standing on the podium and talking about it. That's an outdated 1980s model, man. Like, let it go. And the worst part is every officer has a cell phone. Show the violent deed they did. Just cut the face off the victims. Show these victims, because you know what? They matter too. I've been the guy that goes to your house, knocks on your door, and tells you the person that you love the most in the world is never coming home. And I've walked in the door of these homicides and these horrible crime scenes of sexual assaults and seen the impact of it. And let me tell you, it's powerful, man. And what these families in this country are going through, we can't forget about them. They matter too. And if the government would just illuminate that part of it a little more, that part of
Yeah.
it, instead of standing on that podium. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why, I give you a lot of credit. You and I've talked about it, the stuff that you've been doing, working with some of the federal agencies, man, it's been incredible because that's how you get it out. And then people say, okay, I get it. But we're a long way from where we need to be on that front right now, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, you spent a lot of time in Mexico recently. You've seen it from a different angle now. Is there anything that you've seen that surprised you that you want to mention on the show, that you want to talk about, that you want to put out to the public?
Yeah, I want to stress that I've been very impressed with who has been selected as the Secretary of Security in Mexico, and that's Secretary Harfuch. His abilities, what he has, he is the linchpin, in my opinion, releasing the, look, I of course, President Trump and President Scheinbaum, but I'm talking about operations here. I will say it again and again that he is the key linchpin here. The more that we work with him, the more successful we make him. This is where our wins are coming together as two countries to finish off these cartels. And something that needs to be said here that I think is lost on a lot of people. Remember, we're not here to stop all drugs from coming in the United States. It's not going to happen. Everyone knows that. We're not going to stop the smuggling and the trafficking of people 100%. It's not going to happen. What we're trying to do by going after these cartels is take away a capability that takes over governments. That's what you're seeing in Venezuela. That's what we saw previously in Mexico. We're taking that capability of military-grade weaponry, surface-to-air missiles like the first one we seized in 2016 south of Juarez from La Línea Cartel. The ability to have these armored cars, light anti-tank weapons, RPGs. Crime problems are going to exist in all of our countries. Remember the focus. The policy of the United States is right now. Total elimination of these cartels. That's absolutely winnable. Don't let anyone tell you it's not. It absolutely is. We are already beginning to make major headway here, but we've got a long way to go. And so my major point here is don't let anyone lie to you and think that this is all impossible. Remember, when we're done here, if this is done right and the true levels of trust are built between our two countries and Mexico continues to doing what they're doing, we can really change things. And the legacy of these barbarians and what they did, these savages, to so many innocent men, women, and children will be a thing of our past. And that's the goal, Vince. That's the goal.
Absolutely. You mentioned several times that you guys are on phase one, or excuse me, Mexico is on phase one. When does phase two start? When did they get to a point where they decide, all right, now the next phase needs to be initiated?
They're not going to tell us. That's how that's going to go with operations. But the tripwire to watch for is when they begin picking up more individuals, more in the middle range and higher ranking process of these cartels' leadership. That's the tripwire to watch for. And I say that to you because we're already beginning to see some of it. I think we're beginning to go into it now. But they're never going to illuminate that to all of us. And look, I want to stress to you, it's easy to kill capos. We did that. We called it the capo strategy under Calderon. That's what the strategy was. It didn't finish off the cartels. What you have to do is attack the company. That's the rotten lawyers. That's the rotten judges. That's the politicians, right? This is the people who really are behind the scenes that you never see, who are making things happen with these cartels and working within the government ranks. Those are where the big wins are. Now, eventually, make no doubt, Ivan and Mencho and those guys are going to fall. But I really believe, and I mean this, that we should take everything from them and let them see it for what they have done to so many innocent people, and then take them out.
Jason, man, I love it. I appreciate you. For our audience to find more of your reporting and the information that you're giving out, please tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Newsmax every day, getting it out there, showing what's happening. And the last thing I just want to say, and I truly, truly mean this, to the mothers and fathers who lost everything. We promised you for 8 years 2 things. 1, we would get the terrorism designation. We got it. Second thing, that the world's best of the best were coming for these bastards. And it's happening. It's beginning now. Great to be with you, Vince. Thanks for having me, brother.
Thank you for listening to Borderland Narcosis, an Ironclad original presented by First Form. Go get your First Form supplements at firstform.com/Borderland. Take care.